Hello and welcome to News Central Television. Of course, these are stories making the rounds beyond the African continent. We begin the news at this hour where we understand that Moscow's top diplomat Sergei Lavrov says French military instructors training soldiers in Ukraine would be a legitimate target for Russian strikes. Lavrov was speaking Tuesday during a meeting with his Congolese counterpart Jean-Claude Gatkoso. He stressed that regardless that they are considered to be servicemen from the French armed forces or simply mercenaries, they represent a legitimate target for the Russian armed forces. Earlier, reports citing diplomatic sources said France may send military instructors to Ukraine as early as this week, despite the risk of a direct clash with Russia.
Французских инструкторах у меня есть основания полагать, на сей счет немало конкретных фактов, что они на Украине уже работают. Кем бы они ни значились, военнослужащими вооруженных сил Франции или являлись бы просто наемниками, они представляют собой абсолютно законную цель для наших вооруженных сил.
We stay in Europe, where hundreds of persons have gathered to pay their last respects and lay flowers at the grave of Alexei Navalny on what would have been his 48th birthday. The opposition leader died in unexplained circumstance in an Arctic prison in February. The French parliament erupted in tumult on Tuesday as the lawmakers stood up with a Palestinian flag a week after another deputy was temporarily suspended for doing so. Rachel Keke, a member of parliament for France on both party from the Paris region, brandished the flag at the start of a season of questions to government in the lower house. Fellow LFI parliament member Sébastien Deglue brandished the flag at the same session last week, causing him to be suspended for 2 weeks and have his parliamentary allowance cut by half for 2 months. And staying on the news right now, still in Europe, German Interior Minister Faeser says she is considering allowing deportations of serious criminals and dangerous individuals to Afghanistan after an asylum seeker from the country injured 5 and killed a police officer in a knife attack. She was speaking on Tuesday during a press conference in Berlin. A police officer reportedly died after being repeatedly stabbed as he tried to intervene in the attack, and 5 others taking part in a rally organized by Pax Europa, a campaign group against radical Islam, were also wounded. The brutal attack has inflamed a public debate over immigration in the run-up to European elections and prompted calls to expand efforts to expel criminals.
Seit mehreren Monaten sehr intensiv prüfen, auch nach unserer einheitlichen Meinung bei der Innenministerkonferenz, um Abschiebung von schweren Straftätern und Gefährdern nach Afghanistan wieder zu ermöglichen. Das ist nicht so banal. Und für mich ist klar, dass Personen, die eine potenzielle Gefahr für die Sicherheit Deutschlands sind, schnell abgeschoben werden müssen. Und da bin ich auch ganz entschieden, die Sicherheitsinteressen Deutschlands, das überwiegt hier eindeutig gegenüber den Bleibeinteressen von Betroffenen. Ich will das ganz klar sagen. Und deswegen versuchen wir auch, alles möglich zu machen, um Wege zu finden, Straftäter und Gefährder sowohl nach Syrien als auch nach Afghanistan.
And of course, let's also tell you that hundreds of persons gathered to pay their last respect and lay flowers at the grave of Alexei Navalny on what would have been his 48th birthday. The opposition leader died in unexplained circumstance in an Arctic prison in February.
Неожиданно много людей. Это на самом деле вселяет большую надежду. Когда ты видишь здесь людей, ты понимаешь, что то, что беспокоит тебя, беспокоит далеко не только тебя, еще сотни, тысячи, я думаю, сотни тысяч людей и в нашей стране, Бибиля. И я думаю, для того, чтобы в том числе облегчить часть участь его родственников, его близких людей, его друзей, которые тоже смогут увидеть всех нас, увидеть, что об Алексее помнят. Возможно, это делает их жизнь немного легче. Возможно, это поможет им не падать духом.
4 число, сегодня день рождения Алексея. Я просто не могла не прийти. Очень жаль, что мы потеряли этого человека. Что касается людей, то здесь не могло никого не быть. Это понятно. Вот сейчас мой сын.
Мы пришли сегодня, потому что Алексей был для нас очень важной персоной, очень важным человеком. Он очень многое сделал. И хотелось бы увидеть людей, которые такого же мнения, как и мы.
Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. We now head to Asia, where the Philippine military on Tuesday said Chinese boats illegally seized food and medicine airdropped to a Filipino outpost in the south of China's Sea. Now, the alleged incident happened on May 19th at Second Term Assault in the Spratly Islands, where Filipino troops are garrisoned on a grounded Navy vessel to assert Manina's claims to the waters. The Philippine military accused China of aggressive and unprovoked interference when 2 Chinese rigid-hulled inflatable boats allegedly came within 10 meters of the Sierra Madre vessel and seized an airdrop package meant for Filipino troops. China hit back, insisting that Sierra Madre was illegally grounded on the reef and urging the Philippines to stop making trouble. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said the Philippine side has also repeatedly provoked and intensified conflicts, escalating the situation.
那么菲方还一再的挑衅、激化矛盾、升级事态，这个是我们不能接受的。对于如何处理这个问题，中方已经反复阐明了我们的原则立场。我们希望菲方不要再继续制造事端，而是要回到通过对话协商解决分歧的正确轨道上来。
India's Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi claimed election victory for his party and its allies on Tuesday, but the opposition said they had punished the ruling party to confound predictions and reduce their parliamentary majority. Commentators and exit polls had projected an overwhelming victory for Modi, whose campaign ruled a Hindu majority to the worry of the country's 200 million plus Muslim community, deepening concerns over minority rights. But for the first time in a decade, Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party failed to secure an overall majority of its own. Figures from the Election Commission showed, meaning it would need to rely on its alliance partners. India has placed its faith in the ruling coalition for a third consecutive time, Modi wrote on social media platform X, referring to the BJP and its allies.
इस चुनाव के, इस जनादेश के कई पहलू हैं। 1962 के बाद पहली बार कोई सरकार अपने 2 कार्यकाल पूरे करने के बाद तीसरी बार वापस आई है।
To discuss this further, I'm joined by our international correspondent talking about Afia Hagen. Afia, thank you for joining me. What do you make of Mr. Modi's victory speech?
Well, he was clear to make it plain that, of course, yes, he is going for this historic third term, but he is a president that's now on a back foot. He's someone that's used to having this huge majority in parliament, and that majority is going to be slashed, and he is going to have to go for a coalition government and have to seek the backing of his rivals. The landslide that he wanted, that was predicted, absolutely did not happen. And in this speech, he talked about how the country fared during the pandemic. He took credit for supporting Indians through this period. He also talked about green industrialization, declares that the country is entering a green age. At the moment, it is still one of the biggest producers of harmful toxins into the environment. For it to enter a green age, there's certainly a lot of work to do. He promised to do everything to eradicate corruption from the very root, and this is third term. He wants to support the defence sector, young people and farmers. There was chants of long live Mother India, and there's certainly a thought that he is harking back to sort of previous glory days, and he hopes he can bring those glory days into this term. But India is a country that is facing huge problems. Yesterday we were talking about the heat wave in India. Climate change is a huge problem in that country. So this green revolution that you talk about needs to come quicker, sooner rather than later.
Now, we also understand that for the first time in a decade, Modi's BJP party failed to secure an overall majority of its own. What does this portend for the Indian political landscape?
Oh yes, it's going to be a different third term for Narendra Modi. Like you so rightly said, he's used to, having that majority in Parliament. We'll have to see who's going to lead this government. We know that it will be him, but what party is really going to be in charge? Or back to the days of bargaining in the Indian Parliament, which, they haven't really seen for 10 years because he was so dominant and had that huge majority. He's not known for being a very consensual figure, if you like. It's going to be interesting how he manages the pressures and the compromises that a coalition government will be. It's uncharted territory for this particular party, and he is going to be heavily dependent on the goodwill of others and, frankly, his rivals. So how he navigates that, how he deals with that push and pull in the politics of India will be very interesting to see.
Are there concerns over Modi's government, particularly as regards the 200 million plus Muslim community?
Absolutely. You had 970 million people eligible to vote in this election. That's 10% of the world's population, which is a huge figure. But his Hindu first politics, like you said, have bred intolerance, hate speech, brazen attacks against the country's minorities, including the Muslims, like you said, as well as Christians and as well as other religious groups. That is a huge problem, and one that he's going to have to address. India is one of the world's fastest growing economies. That fast growing economy means that it has a high output of noxious substances into the climate, like I mentioned earlier. So he's going to have to get on top of that green revolution if he wants to, whilst also managing a country that wants to grow very quickly, that's having its own industrial revolution at the same time. You have high unemployment. Youth unemployment especially is soaring even in this economic boom. And it's thought that in this economic boom, it's people in the middle and the top that have benefited and not really people at the bottom of society. So yes, you do have big problems. He has big problems facing him and facing the country, and these problems that he hasn't managed to unravel in the past 10 years. It's going to be interesting to see how he moves forward with this coalition in dealing with these issues, to see if he can properly nail them and get them sorted in his third term.
Afia Hagen, thank you so much for your time. All right, now let's tell you that Iran's acting foreign minister Ali Bagheri Kani met with President Bashar al-Assad of Syria in the capital Damascus. The two sides discussed a wide range of issues during the meeting on Tuesday, including the crisis in the besieged Gaza Strip, as well as the need to end the crimes of Israel against the people of Palestine. Bagheri Kani is in Syria on the second leg of his regional tour after visiting Lebanon. The Iranian minister earlier said one of the main goals of his regional tour is to boost synergy amongst resistance groups in their confrontation with Israel. Earlier in the day, the top Iranian diplomat said Israel is the root cause of instability in the region. He made the remarks at a joint press conference with his Syrian counterpart, Faisal Magdad. Let's head to South America, where Jorge Carmen Lucia has been sworn in as the new president of Brazil's Superior Electoral Court, promising to fight the lies spread on social media ahead of October's municipal election. The Jorge took command of the Superior Electoral Tribunal from Alexandre de Moraes, whose management was marked by the disqualification of former President Jair Bolsonaro and a fierce fight against disinformation on the internet. Now she takes over as head of the Electoral Court from Moraes, with whom she shares positions but is separated by the judge's more discreet profile, according to the Brazilian press. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. Inter Milan's sporting CEO, Giuseppe Moretta, will take over as the Serie A champions' new president on Tuesday, after being put forward by Italian club's new US owners, Oaktree. Moretta, considered the architect of Inter's recent return to football's top table, will replace outgoing president Steve Zhang, who was following a stakeholders meeting in Milan later Tuesday, in which a new board will also be appointed. Oaktree took control of Inter last month, days after the club were officially crowned kings of Italy for 20th time, when previous owners Sewin failed to repay a 3-year loan which matured at 395 million euros. Moretta joined Inter in 2018 as head of the football operations under Sewin and Zhang. Since then, Inter has won 2 Serie A titles, 2 Italian Cups, 3 Italian Super Cups, and reached the final of both the Champions League and Europa League. The 67-year-old was previously CEO of Juventus for a trophy-laden 8 years. India coach Rahul Dravid is to stand down when his contract expires after T20 World Cup. Former batter Dravid says he will not reapply for the position after it was advertised by governing body the BCCI last month. The 51-year-old succeeded Ravi Shastri in 2021 and led India to the World Test Championship and 50-over World Cup finals last year, losing to Australia on both occasions, as well as those 2 defeats by Australia. Dravid oversaw a run to the semi-finals of the 2022 T20 World Cup, where India were beaten by eventual winners England. They have not won any global tournament since the 2013 Champions Trophy. India face Ireland in their T20 World Cup opener in New York on Wednesday, as they attempt to win the tournament for the first time since its inaugural edition in 2007. And that's a wrap on the news at this time. Don't forget to send in your Eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms: DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dakbo at Digboyi. Bye for now.